Hello all and welcome to Crochet Designs. My name is Mary and in today's tutorial we are working on this gorgeous little ear warmer. Oh, very nice. Now, I'm sorry about that, I get so excited. The colour combination for your ear warmer was chosen by the lovely Anne McC in one of our Saturday mornings lives. We have a thing called Live Antics on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Melbourne, Australia time. And you, as a subscriber, gets to choose from a colour combination of some yarn that I have laid out on the table, and you get to choose the colours of our very next project. Get too excited. And the lovely Anne McC chose these two different types of blue. Now, yours truly, I chose some buttons to go there. You can put buttons anywhere you like in reference to our piece. I've given everyone an extra 6 double crochets here and 6 double crochets here, giving you plenty of leeway to move your piece over as wide or as, tight or as loose as you want on your head. Okay, we use the double crochet V-stitch for the rest of the tutorial. As you can see, we did a row border. We did a border row, let's start this again. We did a tiny little single crochet border row on both sides and a normal single crochet border row here with a little bit of what we like to call the spider stitch up the top. And you'll see that throughout the tutorial anyway, so don't stress. The project itself, I would say it's a little bit more of an intermediate. However, newbies, try this pattern. The only major difficult part is doing the side section, making sure we keep that nice and straight, and doing these little picot looking things here. If you didn't want to do those picot looking things, I've left a little disclaimer saying just do another row of single crochet or leave it at the 1 row of single crochet. All right, entirely up to you, but the little peaks make it look gorgeous, I think. Well, that's just me. Anyway, so you will need obviously your yarn, and today we're using the Spot Saver yarn right here. Now, this is our acrylic yarn here in Australia. It's purchased by, or I should say purchased from our Spotlight store. Now, it is an acrylic, 100% acrylic. It's a 200 grams, but you don't need that much for this piece. What you need is roughly around 50 grams altogether. You really don't need that much. This is a 200 gram skein. Okay, and all I've been using is all of that. A whole lot of leftover, as you can see, collapsed yarn there, and plenty from that yarn there. So you don't really need a lot. Now, the actual hook size that it calls for, I believe, is a 5 usually. You can see the 5 right there. We are actually using a 5mm hook. We are. You will need your scissors. You will need 3 stitch markers, 1, 2, 3. You will need the 3 of them, yes. You will need a sewing needle to weave in all your ends, or a darning needle. I use this one here. But silly me, for the buttons, I realized that this needle did not fit. So I had to get a second needle. Make sure, I'll show you in the tutorial anyway, that your needle goes through the little holes of your button. And that's pretty much all you will need, guys, all right? That's all I want to talk about right now. It's a pretty basic stitch throughout the whole piece, except for when you get along here and along there. So you know what, newbies, take a risk and try this gorgeous ear warmer colour combination chosen by the lovely Anne McC. Good luck, guys. Alrighty, guys, we're going to start off by making a quick slip knot, grabbing the tail end of your yarn, wrap it around your finger once and twice, holding it there and holding it down there. Grab that back loop, passing it halfway over your finger, hold it there. Grab the other loop, passing it all the way over your finger, pop your hook in and give your work a tug. All right, what you need to do now is start making chains. Now, your first chain goes like this. Yarn over your hook and pull it through to the loop on your hook. 1. Yarn over, pull through. 2. Yarn over, pull through. 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so now your job is to chain up 72. We've already done 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I'm not going to let you sit here and watch me do all that. So go ahead and chain 72 of these and then meet me back here and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, once you have your 72 chains, we're going to start our first row. But before we do, we need to chain just one more because this chain right here does not act as a stitch. So chain one more. Alright, now you are going to pop in every one of these little loops you see here a single crochet. And a single crochet is popping your hook in that top loop of your very first stitch. Pull a loop through like so. You have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, grab your stitch marker when I find it and pop it in right there. All right, so you're popping it through your 2 loops on top and your little posty stitch on the bottom, if you want to call it a post. It's really a tiny post, but it's there. All right, so now we're going to do 5 more like that first. So start while in our next stitch, you can see the loops, and if you give your work a bit of a tug, you can actually see it. Squish it up, tug it, you can see that loop right there. Single in there, pop your hook in, pull a loop through, 2 loops on your hook, don't make them too loose, yep, yarn over, pull through 2. Straight into the next stitch, hook in, pull a loop through, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2. And we've done 1, 2 and 3. We have another 3 more. Into the next, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, that's your 4th. Into your next, 5th, and into your next 6th. All right, and if you're not sure how to count these, you're counting these little V looking things that you see. So you've got 1 there, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and what you're going to do is pop another orange stitch marker in there like that. It's just to show us where our 6th stitch will be, and you'll work that out later. And then you just single crochet across your whole piece until you get to your very last stitch. All right, so your job now, whoops, that's the wrong way, is to single crochet all the way across your chains, get to your very last stitch right there, and I'll meet you there once you're done. Alrighty guys, you should be around here. You would have all of your single crochets, you still have that stitch marker there, all the way across your 72 stitches. Once you do your very final stitch, which is there, pop your hook in, pull a loop through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. You should have 72 stitches across there. Chain 3, 1, 2 and 3. Grab your stitch marker and pop it through the top 2 loops of that last chain you just did. 1 loop on the bottom, 2 loops on top. Close it up like so. Yeah. Now you flip your work whichever way you want. Right, I'll do that again a bit further out. You're like this, you flip it this way or you flip it the other way. What I usually do so that I don't forget, I make sure I turn it like I'm turning the page in a book. And we're going to work along here now. All right, you are officially in that stitch there, so you don't need to put any double crochets in there, and we're doing double crochets across this way, guys. So we're not going to put a double crochet in there. This will act as a double crochet in the very next stitch, and you can see it. If you give your work a bit of a tug, 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 you can see those spaces. So in that very next stitch, you put your yarn over your hook, and in that stitch right there, we pop our hook in the stitch, 2 loops on top. Pull a loop through like so. You should have 1, 2, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2, that is a double crochet. And straight into your very next stitch right there. Yarn over your hook, in the stitch, pull a loop through, 1, 2, 3, yarn over, pull through 2, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2. Yarn over your hook. Very next stitch, in, pull a loop through, 1, 2, 3, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. So you've got your 1, 2, 3, 4, we need 6 across. So let's do 2 more. 1 in the next. And 1 in your very next, like so. All right, how do we count them? The V's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Now this part of the tutorial is quite simple. You're doing these double crochets, but you're doing them in the form of what we call a double crochet V-stitch, which really is only 2 double crochets in the same stitch. So yarn over your hook, skipping your next stitch that you would have normally put it into and going into the very next one and doing 1 double crochet and your second double crochet all in the same stitch. So it kind of looks like a kind of semi-V. It's not exactly a V yet, is it? All right, skip that next stitch, go into your next with double crochet, 1 and a second one all in the same stitch. All right, so what you have are these spaces in between your V's, right? Skipping 1, jumping into your next, and we are doing well with our 2 double crochets in every second stitch. So your job is to go skip 1, skip 1, skip 1 all the way across. When you get to your orange stitch marker or whatever stitch marker color you put in, your V, your last V should land right there, and then you should have 1 stitch before your stitch marker. All right, so when you get there, say 2 stitches before your stitch marker, wait for me there and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, here I am at the end of my little V-stitch section, and where it would land up, if you did your math right, it should land up a stitch there and then your stitch marker stitch, right? So all you need to do is pop a normal double crochet in that stitch with your stitch marker in it, take out your stitch marker, and you're doing a normal double crochet in there, 1, then you're jumping into your next stitch with a double crochet, 2, next 3, next 4, next 5, and before you do your last stitch, hold it there, and we'll talk real quickly. All right, so what you have here is that you have a row with 6 double crochets, V-stitches all the way across, and then 6 double crochets across, well 5 because we haven't done our last one, and then 6 there. That is your buttonhole and your button section of your work. Okay, so don't worry about that. It will always be 6 on both sides and then V-stitches in the middle. All right, so what we're going to do now is not only are we going to put a last double crochet in that stitch right there, but we are also changing colors in our next round. But we need to change it in this round, at the end of this round. So yarn over your hook, start your double crochet in that stitch with your stitch marker in, take the stitch marker out, yeah, pull a loop through, and you've got your 1, 2, 3. Yarn over your hook, pull through 2, hold it there. Normally you would put your yarn over your hook and pull through the 2, yeah? Drop your blue, grab your light blue, pop it over the hook, pull it through the 2 loops, and what you have is a tail of your dark blue and a tail of your light blue. Just pop them under your fingers at the back so that you can work with this light blue right here, or you can just hold real tight right there. Yarn over your hook, pull a loop through once, twice, 3 times, grab a stitch marker and pop it through the top 2 loops, 1 loop on the bottom, and you're there, right? So turn your work like you were turning in the previous round, yep. And then you are already in that stitch there, so don't do anything in there. You're going right into your next double crochet with a double crochet. So yarn over your hook in that stitch, pull a loop through, 1, 2, 3, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. Okay, and now you are doing your next double crochet in your next double crochet. Yes, You can see the pattern here, one in your next, just on top of each other, like normal, one in your next, and one in your last. What I mean by last is you've got your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you have the V-stitch right here. Now here, if you like, so you don't get confused, you are welcome to keep putting that stitch marker in your 6th stitch, knowing that when you come back later, your stitch marker stitch will be where you're going to pop your hook, right? I'm only showing you this now because on the next row, you're going to be doing that on your own, okay? Because this is now a repeat row, yeah? From here, you've done your 6 double crochets. There's your V-stitch, your very first one, and then you've got your second one there and so on. But in that first one, where you've got your 2 double crochets, you just split them a little bit. There's a big space in there. Not the stitch, but you're going in the space. Yarn over your hook, you're going to pop your hook in the space, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through your last 2 like normal. You're going to do it again in the same space. That is called your double crochet V-stitch, all right? If you're wondering about what the other V-stitch is, it looks like that right there. Isn't that gorgeous? Now that one there is called the normal V-stitch. It's just a plain old V-stitch. This one here is the double crochet V-stitch because you're only using double crochets. You're not using the double crochet with the chain, all right? So from here, you are jumping in between the very next V-stitch. This is the easy part, guys, with your V-stitch. Okay? Then you are jumping in between that V-stitch with your V-stitch and so on. All right? What I want you to do is do all of that in every V-stitch all the way across until you get to your very last V-stitch. All right, so get to your last 6 stitches here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Pop your stitch marker in. I should have got you to pop that in there before. No, I didn't, but there you go. Now you're going to V-stitch in every V-stitch until you get to that stitch marker right there, and I shall meet you there once you're done. Alrighty guys, we have done our V-stitches all the way across there, yes? And I'm sorry, I do have another V-stitch left. My apologies. Let's finish off that V-stitch right there. And then you have your last 6 double crochets. But what you're going to do is you're going to skip that double crochet from your V-stitch, yeah? And jump straight into your 6th stitch there, like so. In fact, we'll take out that stitch marker and pop it in that stitch right there, just to remind you. Well, I should have done that before and I didn't, right? That's your 6th stitch. A yarn over your hook into the next stitch, 2, into your next 3, and your next 4, and your next 5, and then you're going to do one more. But before we do, we are going to change back to our navy blue as well. So we'll start our double crochet. My stitch looks really tight. Let's take out that stitch marker. Okay, so we're putting our double crochet in that stitch. We start it, yarn over, pull through 2, hold it there. Grab your navy blue, pop it over the hook, pull a loop through, holding real tight. Now what I want you to do again, like I did before, grabbing all your tail ends at the back except the one you're working with, and chain 1, 2, 3, hold it there. I was about to say 4, wasn't I? How silly was I? Pop your stitch marker through, and then what are you going to do? Flip your work like that. Don't forget to cut your threads. I'm not cutting, I just want to get you started. All right, so yarn over your hook. Remember, you are in that stitch there, so you need to go right into the very next stitch with a double crochet. 1, double, 2, 3, and 4, but it's classified as 5 because we've got these chains. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and your 6th one goes in that stitch marker stitch, like so. Again, take out your stitch marker and place it back in the same stitch. Just to remind you, that's where you start your double crochets, at the end, the beginning and the end of each row of V-stitches, yeah? So now you're going to V-stitch directly into your V-stitch from your previous round. Easy, 2 double crochets in there. Yeah? 2 in your next, 2 in your very next, and so on and so on and so on. So that's pretty much the row. This blue row that you did right here is a repeat row. You just need to do this over and over again until you get to your final row. Now let me talk about your final row. Let me grab this piece right here. You have done your single crochet row, 1 row of your V's and your double crochets, another row, and we've started our 3rd row. So you're repeating this light blue row, or the dark blue, whichever, say the light blue really. You're repeating the light blue row over and over and over again till you get to the end. Now the end for you now would be to finish this row, do 2 more V-stitch rows after this row, 1 blue and then 1 dark blue. So altogether you need to do 3 dark blues, 1 light blue and 1 dark blue. 3, 1, 1. Okay, so that's all you need to do. 3 rows dark, 1 row light, 1 row dark, and I'll meet you back here once you're done. Alrighty guys, there we are at the end of our sets. What you should have done was your 3 rows navy blue, 1 row light blue and 1 row of your navy blue. Now what we're going to do, we're right at the very end of the row, we're going to chain 1 only. And as normal, flip your work, yeah? Nothing new there. But this row is going to be the same as our base row. It's going to be a single crochet row. So in your first stitch, let's get a close up here for you. In that first stitch, you are popping a single crochet. 1, whoops, pop your stitch marker in there. Okay. And single crochet in your next, and your next, and so on until you get to the end of your double crochets, which is coming up right now. All right, from here what you're doing is single crochet in every double crochet. So you've got your 2 double crochets in your V-stitch or your V-stitch there. You just pop your single crochet in your first double crochet of the V-stitch, single crochet in a second double crochet, single in your next first, single in your second. It's super duper easy. So in actual fact, it's single crochet all the way across your row. Super duper easy. I love the single crochet. Super duper easy. All right, so single crochet all the way across this row. Get to your final stitch and I shall meet you there once you're done. Alrighty guys, here we are at the end of this row. We're going to pop 1 single crochet in our last stitch for now. Yes, take out your stitch marker. Across this row here, you should have 72 stitches. Yeah, and let's get back up again. And in the same stitch, you're going to pop a second single crochet, like so. Popping your stitch marker in that stitch right there for now. And it's going to stay there for a while. Okay. In the next row here, you have popped 1 single crochet. In actual fact, you've popped 2 in that very last stitch of your double crochet. So really you just need to pop 1 double crochet in that, let's try that again. 1 single crochet in that section there. I would suggest going through the stitch and not around the post, or you're going to have a big gap. So into the stitch, find a way to get into the stitch there and do a single crochet. So you've actually filled up your double crochet row here. Now, Don't worry about my little tails. We're just going to leave them there for now. We're going to sew them in later. In your light blue, you need to put 2 single crochets, one in one stitch and one in the other. It's a bit tricky because you've got tails everywhere. You've got this blue tail hanging. Pop a single crochet in some stitching, not around the post, in some stitching right there. Single, one. And then another single in some tight stitching. It's there, but it is there, like so. So you don't have a massive gap. It's a little bit of a gap, but it's not really big. And again, it's not too noticeable because it's going to be right on top of your head, yeah? So then you go into your navy blue right here. So you find a spot where you can grab your hook and pop it in a stitch somewhere, 1. Single into your next stitch, 2. I'm just going to drop those tails at the back. You've got another row here, so you need 2 single crochets in here. I'm actually going to crochet over this one tail just to get it out of my face. Out of my face? It's in the way. 1 and 1 in your next stitch right there somewhere. Oh, that's tight. 2. Okay. Now you've got another row. This is your first row, your second row, and your third blue row. Now you need to pop your single crochets in there again. I can see a bit of a gap there. I'm just going to go into that gap, 1. And right into some stitching there, squashed into the light blue, 2. Now, bringing my dark blue at the back, we're going to go into the light blue, 1. I'm going to crochet over that light blue tail and into the next light blue tight stitching there, 2. And now you've got your double crochet row here, a single crochet row, and kind of like your little tail there, which we're going to fix in a minute too. But you need to put 2 single crochets in this navy blue section here and 1 in the single crochet. So my suggestion would be to find your first stitch, 1, and literally popping it in the single crochet row there, 2, and then you've kind of got that little chain. Pop it in the chain, pull that tail forward, and there's your third one right there. Pull a loop through. You're going to give that a cut, like so. So all you've done here is you have closed up that area. Let's have a nice close up there so you don't see all those tail ends. And now what we have is, I have quite a few tails here, so don't just ignore mine because I ended up with a knot, right? So what we have is that single crocheted, that single crocheted, but we haven't single crocheted this side, which is why I asked you to keep your stitch marker in there. So flipping your work to this side, and this is the amount of tails that you guys should have on your work, not as much as I had. All right, so flip your work, we'll get a nice close up here. Grab your hook and popping it in the stitch. Well, it's fairly tight and really awkward, but popping it in that stitch there without leaving, we don't really want, well, we can probably get away with it. I'm just saying we don't want to go into that little stitch. Oh, there it is. Is that it? Yes. Pop your hook in there, grab your tail, grab your working yarn. Get it right, Mary, you can do this. Pop it over your hook, pull the loop through, just grabbing your tail forward so you can lock it into place. And you're going to do a chain 1 first. In the same space, you're going to do a single crochet. Now, if you remember correctly from the other side, in this double crochet, we put 2 single crochets and we put 1 in there. So we're going to pop a single crochet in the very next stitch. I might just crochet over my tail there, popping up at the back. And there's your first one, right? And there is your second one right there in the stitch. So you've got your 1 and then you've got your 1, 2, yeah? Now you are putting 2 single crochets in each double crochet across. So in your blue, you're putting them in the stitching and not in the spaces, all right? If you're struggling and you want to put them in the spaces, that's fine. And into your next stitch there, 1 into the blue, first blue, whoops, let's try that again. Your first blue and your second blue. And now you're into the next second row of the double crochet. So your first blue in there, 1 and 2. I just pulled the thread there, didn't I? Let's pull that back a bit. This is your third row, and you're going to do the same. Single in your first blue, single in your second blue, pull that down. Now you've got your light blue. You need to put 2 singles in there. One in the first. Oh, that was really tight. One into your second. And then you've got your last blue row here. So it's single in that first stitch of that blue row and single in your last stitch of your blue row, which is right there. And now you've got your single crochet row right here that we had our stitch marker in there. What I want you to do is single in that stitch right there. Yep. Take out your stitch marker for now. Well, you don't need it anymore because this is our final row. Get excited, guys. Pop a second single crochet in there. Turning your work. You're now going to work along here. All right. You're going to put 1 single crochet in there. So that's actually your first, second of the row, third. And in your 4th stitch, you're going to pop a single crochet, chain 1 and 2, and single crochet. Like that. That is actually called, it's also called, I shouldn't say actually called because not everyone calls it that. It's also called a spider stitch. So if you were to do rows and rows and rows of that, and you came back around inside that little chain space, you would do a single crochet, chain 2 and single crochet. And you would have like a pointed edge all the way through in every row. It'd be really tight and, squishy, but it actually looks very nice. But for now, we're just doing a single crochet 1 in the next stitch, 1 in your second, 1 in your third, and in your 4th, you're doing your spider stitch. Single crochet, chain 1 and 2, single crochet. 3 single crochets across, 1, 2, 3, and then your spider stitch in the next one, single, chain 1 and 2, and single. All right, so now your job is to do your single 1, 2, 3 spider stitch, 1, 2, 3 spider stitch, 1, 2, 3 spider stitch, all the way until you get to your last, I think it's 5 stitches. Complete your spider stitch around here somewhere and wait for me here, and we'll talk about how to finalize our work. Alrighty guys, here we are at the almost end of this row. Now I haven't done my last little spider cluster V-stitch set thing. I couldn't get that out, could I? Alright, so in our next stitch I'm going to do my very last cluster set of 1, 2, your single crochet and your chain 1, 2 and all that. Then you should have 1, 2, 3 and 4 left. And then you should have that stitch marker stitch right there. So all you're doing is single crocheting those 4 stitches all the way across, like so. One more there. Okay, so you've got your 1, 2, 3, 4, your single crochet there. And in that stitch marker, all you're doing is slip stitching. Pop your stitch in, pull a loop through, and pull it through to the loop you are in. Pull up a loop, grab your scissors and give your work a cut. All right, now before we go on, we need to add some buttons, but before we do, you may have noticed I already weaved in all of these ends here except this last one we just did, and on this side I left my tails for you. We're not going to weave them all in, but I'm going to show you what I do with mine. So grab your light blue real quickly. And I say real quickly because, we're going to really rush through this so that we can get our button on and get excited. Do you like that? Buttons, whatever you want. All right, so this light blue is sort of tucked down here. If it's in an area where there's so much dark blue, you can just keep weaving in and out of that, yeah? And which is, you know what, I think I might do that as well, all right? We have crocheted over the light blue tail. What you do is you just split a little bit of your dark blue, like that. I've split the stitch a bit there. Go into the stitching like that. But before you do, check that you can't see your needle, right? And then just pull it through. Now I've got a really long tail there. I left it super duper long, as you do. Now you could actually grab your needle and come through this stitching right here. Yeah, check that you can't see the needle from the front. Yes, and then pull your your needle through, and your tail comes through like that. Then you're going to go back in the other direction. You can come through and go over all these little stitches here if you like. Find it a little bit bulky, so I'm just going to split the navy blue a little bit. Go through that stitch there. Just make sure you can't see the needle from the front. I'm pulling it through, and then I'm going to go back that way. Pull the needle through. It's very thick now, isn't it? Right there. You can see the needle, but that's only because it's sticking out there. Pull that loop through like so. You could do it a little bit more if you like. I'm not going to. It should be all right like that. Cut it and just give your work a gentle tug, and the tail hides inside all that stitching, as long as you've done some splitting in there, which you have. All right, which well I have anyway. So there you go. That's your light blue tail. Now you're going to do the same for your dark blues there, and the same for your other side. But for now, this is the row that we just did. We worked all the way along here, and we've got a tail here. That needs to be weaved in as well, but let's not worry about that for now. Let's worry about popping our buttons on, okay? Now, you're thinking, well, hang on, we didn't do any buttonholes. It doesn't matter. Any one of these double crochets here across will be your buttonhole on this side, or any one of these will be a buttonhole on this side. It depends on what side you want to put your buttonhole on. Now, it doesn't really matter, but let's go and grab our buttons. Alrighty guys, by now you would have that, and you would have weaved in all of your ends, and you would now be up to, yes, the button section. All right, and as you can see, I've done 2 buttons already, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Before you do anything, make sure you are putting your buttons on the right side of your work. Can be on either end, it doesn't matter which side you want your buttons on, and I'll explain that in a minute. But it must be on the side that we did our last row of spider stitches, if you will. Okay, we got here, we chained a loop and we cut it, and then we will obviously have to weave that in. I put it on my left hand side where we ended our thread. Again, not necessary, it can be over here. So it's entirely up to you, it doesn't matter, whichever's easier. Now, why I have mine so far over here is because I wanted a real tight fit on my head. So your job now is to try this out on your head and check the measurement before you continue, and pop a little stitch marker on where you want your button to go, which is what I did. Then I popped stitch markers with a distance between each button, and I was able to sew on the first 2 buttons, and now we're going to do that last one together. However, how wide apart do I hear you ask? It doesn't matter. Just make sure that you can have it where when you're on the other side it can go through a gap, okay? And that's another reason why we don't have to worry too much about anything, because your button will go into any section that you want on the other side. Okay, so if you got right over to the very last stitch, because you've got a tiny little head, which is okay too, then you'll have that much sticking out. But if you've got, you know, kind of a wider head like me, you move it over a little bit more. All right, so it's entirely up to you. If you want your buttons to go center down the middle, by all means do that too. I just put it where it was going to suit my head. All right, so there's no right or wrong way of doing it, okay? The other thing I did before was I started using this needle, the one I used for this thread, to sew on the buttons, right? I got it and I thread it and everything, and I forgot to check to see if it could go through my button, and it doesn't. Always check to see if your needle goes through your button. Now, if you've got two hole button, easier for you. I've got a 4-hole button, so I'll need to get my thinner needle, which is that one there. Oops, there you go, through all 4 holes of our button. All right, so as long as your needle goes through your button, you won't have a problem. I'm talking too long. Let's get on with doing. The distance apart, I didn't even measure. I just went, right, a thumb like that and a thumb like that, that's it. And I kind of put stitch markers between my thumbs. If you wanted to get pedantic, you could measure exactly across and then divide it by 3 and add that one on the side and all that jazz. By all means do that. But yours truly just went, right, next button goes there and we're done. Okay. Because you have 3 buttons, it's not exactly a problem how far apart they go, because it's really going to close up. However, make sure they are straight. Yeah, make sure they are on the same stitch, which is what I did. Now, before we go any further, we need to cut a piece of thread, and for each button, you kind of just need, let me bring that out a bit, you just need 1, 2, say 2 hands worth, give it a little cut, and that's it. That's all you pretty much need. We're only going to go through it 4 times, and in my case 4. Thread your needle. Mine's going to be a bit difficult because this is a needle for a DK weight and not an Aran. Oh, not bad, not bad. It did all right. Okay, so what you do here, once you've found your stitch marker, right, you just grab your sewing needle and you pop it through the back as close to where the stitch marker is, or anywhere near it, yeah? Take out your stitch marker, pull that thread through just a little bit because you've still got your little tail there at the back. You don't want to lose that. So you want to leave yourself a little bit of a tail for, let's bring that out a bit, a little bit of a tail for tying up. So leave that at the back, grabbing your button, popping it through one of the spaces, yeah. That is now classified as the top part of your button. If you made it the bottom part and your button goes up, it'll be really high up. All right, we want it to be even. So we go into the top part, we're going down to, if you've got a 4-hole button, this is what you do. If you've got a 2-hole, you just have to go across. Right, the 4-hole, you need to go down. Oh, am I so far away? You need to go down the stitch. You came out from there, but you need to go further down because you've got 4 holes and you need to go through all 4 of them. So pull your thread through. Make sure it's on the right side. All right, so it's not on the right side. It keeps twisting. Hello. You know what? It will help if you pull both the threads at the back. And there you go. So your button is going to be like that. For those of you who have a 2-hole button, yours could go this way, it could go down, whichever suits you. It doesn't matter. Now pop your needle through the back at the bottom of your button. Right where the bottom of your button is, pop it through the back. Just pull it through your project first. Making sure you don't pull your tail through. You need that tail. All right, and just go in through a little hole in your button at the bottom of your button now. If you've got a 4-hole button. If you've got a 2-hole, go backward and forward twice and then don't cut off yet. Make sure everything is straight and in place. Now that it's all straight, you've got your 3rd hole, you just can go straight through. All right, now yours truly needs to go across this way, like I've done here with these 2. I've done it that way and then that way. You don't need to, I do, because I'm very fussy. It does mean it's a little issue with my needle because it's a really tight needle. So I'm going to go in there, anywhere I like, it doesn't matter, and then go across the other way. All right, now I'm going to go down the bottom somewhere. I can get my needle through. It's really tight now, but just making sure you're not touching that one. And then we are going into the very last one, and it is the very last one. Pull your thread through. Now, turn your work over. Oh, the whole thread's not through. Take out your, oh, you shouldn't have taken the needle out. Don't take your needle out. Tie a knot because you've got to weave these in. 1, nice and tight, and 2. You need to weave these tails in because a lot of people cut it there and assume it's not going to come out in the wash. It can, okay? And if you use it in the washing machine, well, I don't do washing machine washes with my work, but if you do, it's more likely to come out. So you only need to weave in a little bit. So you just get a few ends. You can even weave through the knot if you like, doesn't matter. Like that. You just need to weave in a little bit. Once on one side, oh, really tight. Oh, my little tail's too long. And then you just weave a little bit more through that side, and it doesn't matter how much you weave in. 2 is plenty. You've tied it in a knot twice and you've weaved it in twice. That is not coming undone. But don't think that this end won't come undone. So you're going to weave that one in as well. Yeah, just need to be weaved in twice. Once through one section. Oh, I forgot to mention, whoops, make sure you can't see the thread in front. You can't really if you're weaving it in under the button. That's really tight. That's not going to come through, I can guarantee you. Oh gosh, that was really tight. That's not going to come undone. You know what we're going to do, guys? We're going to cut that right there. And that, my dears, is the end of that. All right, turning your piece over, and what you have is that. Now, this is where you are, yeah? And all you're doing is popping it where you want it to go. It doesn't matter. What have I done? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, and just doing that all the way down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on, Mary, you had one job. All right, and there you go. All right, and that is the front of your ear warmer. How gorgeous is that? You can actually wear it with your points going up in front, yes? Or you can wear it the straight edge way, whatever suits you, yeah? It's whatever suits you. There's no right or wrong way of wearing your gorgeous ear warmer. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and thank you so much to the lovely Anne McC for her colour combination for our gorgeous ear warmer that we have actually completed today. Thank you for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and do all the wonderful things that you guys, well, pretty much already do for me. And don't forget to join us on our live so that you can have your chance of choosing a colour combination for our very next project. Enjoy your gorgeous ear warmer, and ciao for now.